You are listening to Toronto's only pure metal show, The Red Switch.
Bobby, you guys just came back from your South American tour and Europe tour. First of all, how was that?
That was good. Record was released in Europe on the 27th of January. We started in the Netherlands on the 6th of February. And I was pleasantly surprised that the whole crowd knew the words to most of the songs that we played off the new record. So that's always a great... you realize you have impact if the record's been out for 10 days and they already know it. Started in the Netherlands, ended in Germany, but went through a whole bunch of other countries in the interim. On the way back, March, we did a show in Santiago, Chile, right after the earthquake, Buenos Aires, and then 2 in Brazil, Sao Paulo and Recife, right on the coast. And now we're on the American leg, so it's though it seems like it's early in the American leg, we already have a month-plus touring under our belts. So we're kind of rolling like a machine right now.
Nice.
Yeah, things are good.
I'm sure you guys have had your share of experiences with other bands on tour. Can you tell me what has been your weirdest experience with other bands so far in all these years?
Weirdest experience with other band on tour? The weirdest experience. It's not my imagination. I just can't remember anything, and I don't want to really lie at this juncture. Can we go back to this?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
if this is like a test, I would be able to go back to this later and fill it in, right? Okay.
Okay, whatever pops into your head. Anybody who knows anything about Overkill knows you guys have been at it for years, decades even. You've amassed hundreds of songs over these few albums, and few is an understatement. What's it like going back to the practice space? Like, do you have to relearn songs that you've had from the earlier albums?
Yeah, I haven't rehearsed for 15 years. I just won't do it. I think it's more exciting to not do it because we've been doing this for so long. The other guys will rehearse and they'll go over what we've done on the last tour and they'll add new stuff to it. But all I do is I make like a disc and I throw it in my car, and whenever I'm in there, that's how I learn the ones for going back over it. Because it's more exciting for me to just kind of jump right into the fire than to say, oh, I'm 100% fully prepared, because it really makes it that much more exciting for me, and that's really the only reason I do it. I was out the night before the last rehearsal for the European tour, and we were celebrating a friend's birthday in a bar, my wife and I. And I said, I gotta get home. We got a rehearsal tomorrow. She said, "You stop lying. You're not going."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, you're right."
No one ever has the foresight to know how much of a success or failure they'll be as a band. So, what would you say, Bobby from 1975 were to meet Bobby from 2010? What do you think he would say?
Well, 1975, I was in high school. In 85, when we released Field of Fire, I didn't have the long-sightedness into understanding that this would go for 2+ decades, because that is about being long-sighted and having a long plan. I'm really more about immediacy. And I'm very proud of those 25 years, but still feel that the value lies more in the day than in the past. Because then if you're valueless in the day, if we're always talking about what happened as opposed to what's happening, then Ironbound is less relevant. And I like to think that it's a relevant record. And I think as long as I think in those terms, things work out for me one time after another. I like the way the bus is moving. You feel it?
I know. It's
I'm kind of wondering what's going on.
What do they say when the bus is rocking? Where do you guys attribute your staying power?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a love of what we do. I mean, that's first and foremost. Dee Dee Verney loves to write songs and loves to write them in mass. I love performing. The other guys like being on the road. The other guys like this lifestyle. I think that you protect it. I think that, if my principle of living in the day affords me an opportunity, like an interview with you or a show in Toronto, and I carry that into the next day, probably the third day will take care of itself. Yeah. And I really think that that's how you attribute longevity and staying power. It's just, it's real simple for me. I mean, if it goes away next week, it goes away, and I understand that. But if the opportunity presents itself today on a Tuesday, let's choke the living shit out of it and squeeze it for every drop that it's worth.
Yeah. Aptly put. people say there's been a revival of metal in the music world. How long do you think it'll be until we start hearing Slayer in the doctor's office?
Oh my God, Slayer in the doctor's office. I don't think that's happening. Angel of Death or something like that.
Yeah.
It sounds gross, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hear that in the doctor's office.
So you personally wouldn't want to hear Slayer in the doctor?
I don't think
No?
so. No, I wouldn't want to.
Do you think maybe 50 to 100 years from now, that is being classic music?
Elevator music, like where like some orchestra like transposes it and you hear it in the elevator.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Whether or not that could happen, it'd be pretty awesome, though, if it ever did.
You know, one of the beauties about this and the resurgence of it is based, I think, on some of the younger bands. And younger bands have brought a new excitement to this. The reason I think it's happened is obviously the value of the music. It's transcended generations. But there's also a lot of social and political themes that have reflected itself from, 2005 through 2010, as they so did in 1980 to 1985. This was, back then I remember this as being the voice in the dark. The bastard child of two different genres, that of the new wave of British heavy metal and punk rock. That was kind of a social and political cry out based on the economics in the U.S. and in North America, based on the wars that we were involved in, based on our presidency at the particular time, which was Jimmy Carter. Then Reagan kind of came in and fixed things. I think that we have a lot of that right now. And I think that that's actually what gives it value. And, when I think of it that way, I say, there's actually a reason for this type of music. And that's why there is maybe a resurgence of it. Value in the music, transcending generations, pure honesty. I mean, you're either into this or you're not into this. I mean, you don't do this for a period of time like Dee Dee and myself unless you love doing this, because this is no secret plan about getting rich. This is about counting your success more so in days than counting it in dollars. So I really think it's about the value of the music and the sense of community that it attracts with those who follow it.
Mm-hmm. The Bush administration spawned a lot of great songs, a lot of songs about political awareness. Do you think the Obama administration is able to do the same thing?
I mean, you could probably just do one record and call it Liar.
Why so?
Well, he wasn't in office for more than 2 months till he raised taxes on the middle class, which was what got him elected. He was now in office for over a year and had every environmental group backing him because he would never do offshore drilling, and he's just planned the map as of last week. This healthcare situation has put another nail in the coffin, as far as I'm concerned, to the middle class and to the guy who works for himself. He could care less. In my opinion, Democrats are elitists. They're just out of touch with what the regular American guy who works for himself does and thinks that they know better because we're a little bit less uneducated. We're a little bit less educated than they are. Mm-hmm. So they align themselves with Leonardo DiCaprio, who's telling us to stop wiping our ass with so much toilet paper when he owns 9 fucking houses. Yeah. And they align themselves with Al Gore, who says everybody's got to have a carbon footprint. And when you look a little bit deeper, he owns the only company that does that. Yeah. so it's really that whole Democratic party, as far as I'm concerned, has really stabs the guy who works for himself. Yeah. And it's just it's an awful thing. I mean, people can hate what had happened prior with the Republicans, and I mean that's we didn't really have the biggest let's say profile with regard to the world, what they thought of us. But the reality is if you work for yourself under the Republicans, you get to keep more of it and not give it away to where the Democrats make bigger government, and they say we have to guide your sheep. So I'm not a big fan. After 15 albums, right? How does each one change in order for you to maintain the same passion in order to put out the next one, to make it each one different or at least creative for the fans? Well, you have to celebrate the nuances, the small evolutionary parts. My feeling about what it does for me personally is that if I stop progressing, if I stop learning, there is no progress. Then it becomes what it was, and it's a rehash. But the Ironbound record, for instance, from a vocal perspective, there's different things on it that I learned over the last couple of years, and now I was ready to throw on a record as a highlighted track, like a main vocal track, a death metal voice, a crooning type voice. doing different things, doubling my own vocals, but not doubling them. Double's supposed to be like so, but I would double them in time like so that it would actually not appear computer generated. So I think